you? Now, this is probably a question that a lot of candidates are having, not just for our school, but for other schools as well, with the proliferation, as it were, of sort of part-time and online and full-time programs that have kind of sort of hit the market recently. So, but to begin with, before we get to our expert panelists, we'll start with ESMT, because that's where our expertise is. So first things first is who are we, ESMT? Now, on the right-hand side of the screen here, you can see our shiny facade of our building. And if you're interested in where that is in relation to Berlin, we're basically on the left here, right at the bottom of that tall, pointy thing. So we're very much in the center of Berlin, which is itself at the center of kind of Europe, as it were. And now, we're not here by accident. The reason that the school is here is because when the school was founded by these 25 multinational corporations, essentially they decided that the graduates that they were getting from other schools didn't necessarily have the skills that they were looking for. So they thought, right, let's just cut out the middleman and do it ourselves. And they chose Berlin because at the time, obviously, it was a city undergoing tremendous revolution, tremendous growth. And we've seen that over the last 20 years with the development of sort of Berlin's startup economy, as well as its sort of political power at the center of European development. Now, the school itself was founded on these three principles: so leadership, innovation, and analytics. Now, I always get in trouble if I talk about the founding companies too much, because obviously just because you study with us does not mean that you are guaranteed to become the CEO of McKinsey after you graduate. But really, one of the most prominent ways that these companies support us is through feedback. So they are very, very quick to tell us whenever they see a skill shortage in the market. So we are then able to adjust our curriculum and make sure that our graduates are the first to hit the market with those skills. And that's really where that sort of focus on innovation and analytics came about, was that these companies recognized that there weren't these skills out there in analytics and in innovation. And we have happily been able to sort of make sure that our students are arriving at the sort of graduation market with these skills very predominantly in their learning. Now, we always say that you shouldn't pay too much attention to rankings. There are 100 more important ways to choose a business school, but they give you a rough idea of the kind of company that a school keeps. And we're relatively proud over the last 2 years to have been ranked as the #1 school in Germany and number 9 in Europe by the Financial Times European Business School ranking. So just again, gives you a rough idea about sort of the kind of area that ESMT occupies. On the right-hand side here, you can see a collection of logos. This is AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS. And these are the sort of 3 main global accreditation bodies. Now, ESMT is one of about 100 schools in the world that have this sort of triple crown accreditation, we call it. And what that means is wherever it is that you end up in the world after you graduate, your degree will be recognized. And FIBA down here, this is the German accreditation body as well. So that kind of rounds out our 4 accreditations. So on to the meat of our programs. Now, ESMT is, I guess, like a lot of schools at the moment, expanding its programs on offer. So we now currently offer 5 different programs. The 2-year Masters in Management and the 18-month Executive MBA we perhaps won't touch on so much today, but we will be really focusing on our 1-year full-time MBA, our 2-year part-time MBA, and our 2-year global online MBA. Now, there's subtle differences between the curriculums and the delivery methods and the admissions and the type of person that each one of these programs will appeal to. But that's what we're going to get onto with Nick today. He's overseeing the development of all 3 of these programs, really, and so is in a sort of prime position to tell us about the differences between all 3. For those who do have questions about the 2-year Masters in Management or the 18-month Executive MBA, don't worry, don't leave. We definitely can help you out today as well. So, but hopefully predominantly the meat of the questions will be about our MBA offerings. Okay, so that's enough from me. And I would now like to stop sharing my screen and bring Nick back into the room. So, for anyone who does have a question for Nick today, you can type it into the Q&A box where you began the session by typing in where it was you were tuning in for today. But I guess I have one to kick off, Nick.
I have one for you before you start.
Okay, so, yeah.
Have you noticed anything has changed since you were talking?
Since you were talking, have you changed the poster behind you?
I have. I put up a poster because I haven't been in the office in quite a long time, and I found that it was looking a little bit blank. So there's a poster of the best football club in Berlin behind me.
I was
Anyway,
going to say, yeah, you're more than welcome to put up more football memorabilia. That's fine. If anyone has any questions for Nick about Berlin-based football as well, then feel free to send them through. Anyway, yeah, but I guess to kick one off, perhaps you could tell us, is there a difference in terms of the type of student that we want for each of these programs? Or would you say that an MBA is an MBA is an MBA? It's just a sort of delivery method that's different.
Okay, well, I think I'd start off by saying that all of our MBA programs finish with the same degree. So there is one MBA which is recognized by the City of Berlin, which is the Berlin Senate. That's the organization that gives us our license to operate, and our whole entire MBA portfolio all culminates in the same degree. But there are, I would say, differences in many ways between the program. I think the biggest difference, if I could start, is with the executive MBA and the rest of the portfolio. So the executive MBA is for people who are already in leadership positions. So you need to have really solid leadership experience. You need to have run teams for several years. You need to be maybe in the path towards progression to board level positions and to very senior management positions. And then, so that's really, you just need more experience for that program. It's a leadership development program, pure and simple. It's less about learning the skills and tools you need to be a good manager, but it's more about how do you become more impactful in your leadership behaviors. So maybe we'll leave that aside. On the other side, another easy one to differentiate is the full-time MBA. So the full-time MBA tends to be for people who are looking to make a major transition in their career, whether that's a transition of geography, whether it's a transition of industry, whether it's a transition of function, whether it's all three. So that's for people who are looking for immediate transition, and they have the time and the interest to actually spend a year devoting themselves to the entire MBA experience. They're doing nothing else. They're only doing an MBA. They move to Berlin. For this group, it tends to be about 95% international. So a lot of people for our full-time MBA program, which is a 12-month program, they will move to Berlin from outside of Germany, or maybe they've come to Germany before. But the idea really is it is a way to gain traction in the German labor market. The vast majority of our graduates, about 80% of our graduates, take their first job in Germany after the full-time MBA. So they're kind of two very different programs. And then you have the part-time MBA and the online MBA. So for the part-time MBA, it's sort of a combination of the full-time MBA and the online MBA. So let me say that the part-time MBA and the online MBA are relatively similar. I would say that the part-time MBA is really more suitable for those people who want to invest more time in the personal networking side of the MBA, or who want to maybe spend more time embedding behaviors in a personal context, whereas the online MBA is a more flexible option that you can do from anywhere. So if you take the part-time MBA, it's got 14 face-to-face sessions, which can be taken either in Berlin or in Munich, and that's from a Thursday afternoon to a Saturday afternoon. But if you take the online MBA, you have some optional face-to-face modules, but it's just much more flexible. So I would almost see the part-time MBA, although it has a slightly stronger focus on innovation, and the global MBA, I would see those as quite similar programs, albeit just in very different delivery mode. And I'll stop there because I'm happy to answer any questions. I realize it might not be clear for people.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much. Well, we have one question that's come through from Aigen, who asks, as a student from Turkey, when you graduate from the full-time program, you get an 18-month work visa to stay and work in Germany. Is that available to students who graduate from the part-time or the online MBA?
No, it's not. So the German government recognizes full-time study as a pathway to work visas and residency, but they don't extend the same privileges to people who study part-time in the country or who graduate with a degree. This is the current state. Things change all the time, but at the moment, it's the same for the executive MBA. They do not provide a pathway to residency or citizenship. The full-time MBA provides both. You get 18 months to stay in the country, look for a job, and then you can remain indefinitely. And after 5 or 6 years, you can become a citizen if you want to. Yeah, that's my current awareness of the situation, unless you know any differently about things that might be changing, Lawrence.
No, as far as I'm aware, that's the case. Well, yeah, so thanks again. I hope that answers your question. If anyone else has any other questions, keep them coming. But yeah, another one, I guess, Nick, would be kind of about the curriculum, I suppose. So is the difference between the part-time, the online, and the full-time, is it the same curriculum, but just the delivery method is slightly different? Or are there differences in the focus of the teaching?
There are subtle differences, let's say. So the part-time MBA has a stronger focus on innovation, business innovation. So that's really for people who self-identify as change agents within their organization and who really want to learn how to embed innovative behaviors into their business practice. The global online MBA is it has a slightly more global focus in terms of its choices of cases, etc. But it's more for people who they want an MBA, they want the content that an MBA has to deliver, and it's maybe less specifically oriented towards the innovative behavior side of things. So it's probably a more generalist program, I would say. The full-time MBA, you have a choice. The full-time MBA has a lot more choice, so you can choose whether to specialize in innovation or to remain generalist and go more towards strategy or to go more towards analytics. So the full-time MBA, you can actually define your own pathway a little bit more in which and choose the specializations according to your own interest.
I suppose that's a good way of doing it, isn't it? So you're still going to have like a finance class or an analytics class, but it's how that is framed within the class that sort of gives it its sort of focus, whether that's an innovation.
Exactly. I mean, basically, whatever MBA program you do with us, you should be able to run a business or run a unit of a business, of a larger business when you're finished. I mean, you're taught, either way, you're taught the basic skills of everything. I mean, I think if I was really looking at it, I would sort of say, okay, what format do I want? And I would tend to treat the curriculum as relatively similar. They have a slightly different focus, but part of that is you guys. You're the marketing guys. Part of it is you have to create some space in the market for different programs in different formats. But really, as somebody trying to choose the program, I would say, look, do I want the personal networking component, or actually can I live without that? And do I want the flexibility?
I suppose that's sort of a bit like that between schools as well, isn't it? Sort of an MBA is an MBA, but different schools have different focus areas, different things they're stronger or weaker at, business connections, that sort of stuff as well. So,
yeah, I'd say you could make bigger differences between schools than you can between our online and our part-time program. I think ESMT has a very, very strong focus on leadership, innovation, analytics, and also a strong focus on social responsibility as a counterpoint to the Anglo-Saxon models of business schools, which tend to be more focused on the shareholder above everybody else. So, I think there we have a very, very strong culture in that direction here at the school, which so I would definitely argue much more strongly that an MBA is an MBA is an MBA is not true. I think it's really important that people do the research and understand the cultures of the various schools that they're applying to. Somebody has their hand up, I see.
Yeah, so Philip has their hand up. So do you now. Philip, if you do have a question, feel free to type it into the Q&A box. We actually have one that's come through who asks about, so while studying the full-time MBA, is it possible or is it even advisable to continue working?
It's actually not possible to study or to work at the same time as the full-time MBA. I mean, we get some people who maybe have had their own business before they come and do the full-time MBA, and they kind of tick along. They try to delegate as much as possible of that, but still maybe maintain an interest. And there are people who, probably don't tell us, but they might be still doing a day a week for their old company, but it's really the full-time MBA is really intense, particularly it starts in January. The first 6 months of the program, you don't really have time to do anything except fulfill your program obligations and get the most out of the network. I think if you're going to spend that sort of money in spending a year with us, you should really be trying to absorb as much as you can, even outside the curriculum, through all the events, etc. And really not focus your time on working. I mean, I think if it's a financial issue, then maybe I think a part-time program would be better if you really want to continue working.
That makes sense. And for those, I suppose the part-time and the online are designed for those who are working at the same time. Is it sort of mandatory that students have to tell their employer that they're taking the program, or could they do it sort of without having to loop the employer in as well?
We get all sorts. I mean, it's very helpful if your employer knows if you're taking the program. And I know in some schools that you need to have a commitment from your employer, or else you don't. It's up to you to manage. I think when it comes to the final project phase, it's really helpful if your employer is involved in terms of giving you data to be able to do the project and giving you access to a live environment to test some of the concepts you're learning. I think it's a shame if somebody's employer doesn't know somebody's doing the MBA program, but there's all sorts of different reasons why people might not want to tell their employer. We would strongly encourage people to have an open conversation with their employer, and if their employer is not supportive, then to maybe find another employer. It's not a prerequisite for us, though it would be strongly recommended. And we like to see references from the employer who can understand what sort of time commitment the person can put into the program, because it is, regardless of which program you take, if you take the part-time MBA or the online MBA, you're looking at about 15 hours a week. The online MBA, you can take a break, you can pause. A part-time MBA is fully cohort based, so it's difficult to hide 15 hours work 15 hours work a week from your employer if you've got a strong engagement with that employer.
You mentioned so the part-time being fully cohort based. Does that mean that the online is 100% individual study, or is there a degree of sort of cohort-based study in that as well?
No, actually. So, I mean, we've built in flexibility into the online MBA program in that people can take modules of, a module is 3 courses together, and that goes on for 15 weeks. So within the 15-week period, everything in the online MBA will be a cohort. You'll just join multiple cohorts. So each time you take a new module, you're in with a new group. We have a lot of group work. It's definitely not only individual study. It's equally as cohort based as the part-time program, except the cohorts are shorter. They're based on the modules. But actually, I really expect that the majority of our applicants to the full-time MBA, to the online MBA program, will go straight through and do the program in 2 years. I think we've built in flexibility because we know people want it, and because nobody else in the market really has built in that flexibility into their program. So, but I'm also thinking of myself as a student. If I'm trying to approach doing an online MBA program, I would really say, try to have a plan for the 2 years and get the program through and get it done and build it into your plan, because otherwise it could turn into program drift. I mean, we've spoken to some people in the US who have this same model as us, and they say, one of the things they do face is that people who take gaps in their program, they maybe, life gets in the way, and they maybe never end up getting their qualification. I mean, you get your credits as you go, but we would encourage people to try and see it through once they start, although we have the flexibility that they don't have to.
Yeah, just for those that don't know, that sort of flexibility is how does that work? So you're able to sort of drop out and pick up again,
Okay, so we're talking about the online MBA program only here. So if the other programs, part-time MBA, full-time MBA, executive MBA, you start with a group, you finish with the same group. With the online MBA program, you sign up for a module at a time. Well, you can sign up for the whole program at the beginning if you want. That's no problem. You have to get admitted to the program, and then you basically book modules as you go. So each one is 15 weeks, and you can finish within 2 years altogether. But if you say, okay, for this 15-week period, I'm simply not going to have time, I'm going to pick that one up next year. That's the option for that. It means it'll take you significantly longer to complete.
Fantastic. So we have a question here from Bruno, who asks whether ESMT works closely with any German or international university for the lectures. Now, I suppose that's maybe an opportunity to talk about the FOAM, the Future of Educational Alliance, whatever. And perhaps sort of just to sort of clarify, like for the online and for the part-time program, is the teaching done, by regular ESMT faculty? Do we sort of loop in any department as well?
Okay, so let's try and unpack that question and not talk too much about the different formats of the programs. We've got a faculty who teach all our programs. So we've got a core faculty who is academically, I would say, quite gifted. They're qualified from the top PhD programs worldwide, and we staff all our own programs. So if you're doing the global online MBA program, you're going to get the best faculty we have in the same way as you'll get them on our executive MBA. So let's just start there. The question is, do we have some exchange opportunities? We don't have a roster of faculty that we need to teach our core programs. Depending on the program you do, you have different exchange opportunities and different opportunities to take courses with other schools. Our first major alliance that which you can exchange, and this is for all of our MBA programs, is called the Global Network for Advanced Management. It's called the GNAM network. And there, regardless of the program you're taking, you can take elective courses from any one of our 30 partners, provided they're offering electives in that particular semester, but everybody's in the game. Those partners are, if I try and think of where the participants were, okay, so we have, the partners are Berkeley and Yale in the US, they are IMD in Switzerland, they are Oxford in the UK, IE in Spain, HEC in Paris, Bocconi in Italy, and then like a whole range of partners in Asia: Fudan University in Shanghai, Renmin in Beijing, Hitotsubashi in Tokyo, University of New South Wales. For example, there's 30 schools in the network, Skolkovo in Moscow. I mean, I could name them all if you gave me enough time, but it's on our website. And each of our programs has the opportunity to take courses with those partners. It just depends on if you're doing the full-time program, or the executive MBA, or the part-time MBA, you have an in-person option. If you're doing the online MBA, you only have online options with those schools. Although you do have the option to do an international field trip on the online program.
Nice. Okay, so plenty of options, plenty of flexibility, whatever you end up studying. I guess whilst we're talking about faculty, does ESMT have like a particular approach to the way it sort of recruits faculty? I mean, I know certain schools go for sort of academic experience above everything else, or certain other schools go for professional experience above anything else. Like, is there a particular way that ESMT do it? Yes,
there is. So every faculty member who starts at ESMT has to be able to research. So we don't have purely teaching faculty. We have people who create original content, and that is our key differentiator from many other business schools. There are many schools like us, and then there are many other schools who are not like us. So we also believe that this is going to become more and more important in the future, because as standardized content gets commoditized, which it will, you really need to have somebody who is able to tell you what the latest in his or her particular field is, and they can do that by their research. So we try to hire people who are first and foremost intellectually powerful in their subject. We believe it is possible to learn how to be a good teacher. So it's definitely true that you can make good teachers out of good researchers. This is my view. It's definitely not true that you can always make good researchers out of good teachers. So we have an academic approach. We're very, very rigorous in terms of who gets to stay. If you're not publishing, then you can't stay. Your contract is not renewed in our faculty. So you join on a 3-year contract. If your teaching is not particularly good, at the beginning, you go through a training program to make it better. And if then it's not good, then you don't get your contract renewed. But if your research is not good from the start, then you simply don't make it.
Fantastic. Okay, we have a question here from Justina, who asks, what is the acceptance rate for the online MBA? Now it's probably a bit early to tell in terms of
Oh,
recruitment for the
well,
online
seems
MBA.
we launched it, went to the market about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've no idea what the acceptance rate is going to be. I think as a school, if you understand understand us and our philosophy, we don't encourage people to finish applications unless they're likely to succeed. So I think the acceptance rate is generally, it's not really relevant, because if you send us a CV and it's clear that you don't have the necessary experience to get through the program, then we tell you, and then you wouldn't have to go through the burden of an application and paying an application fee. So I would say, in changing the answer to that question, send your CV to the admissions team and they'll give you a good steer on whether it looks promising for our program. I would say that I think we introduced an application fee last year or 2 years ago for all our programs. It's a small fee. It's €50, which is, it meant our application shrunk, but it also meant our acceptance rates went up a lot, because we once you just sort of make that little hurdle for people to say, okay, I'm going to read the criteria properly and I'm going to really prepare my application and I'm actually going to pay some money. It may not be a huge amount, but for some people it's enough. And for us, it's enough to, so our acceptance rates have gone up, but our number of applications have gone down significantly since we did that.
Fantastic. And I suppose whilst we're talking about admissions, I presume the answer is going to be no, but when it comes to the sort of the boilerplate student, as the ideal student we get studying our programs, is there a difference between what we're looking for the online, the part-time, and the full-time? Obviously, the executives are sort of their own thing, but when it does come to recruitment for those 3 MBAs, is there a particular kind of person we're trying to find?
Again, this question it always comes up, but I think this probably didn't come up from our audience. This came up from you just now. Probably.
This was me. Yeah, I just threw
yeah, that's you.
Bus, yeah.
The reason it always comes up is because you always ask me. No, I mean, the whole admissions conversation is very much a personal discussion. It's really okay. First thing I would always ask somebody is, what are your expectations? What do you want from us? And depending on the particular program you're applying for, it's going to be different whether we can actually meet those expectations. So if you're saying, I mean, I'll just take your very simple question from earlier. If I do a part-time program, do I have residency rights in Germany if I'm out from outside the European Union? If your expectation is to have that, then you've got to do a full-time program. Or if you, for example, say, no, I really want to spend time with people. I'm kind of a very I need to be in physical proximity to people. Is the online MBA right for me? We'd probably say no. Or if somebody said to me, I struggle sometimes with self-discipline, then I would say, well, then you need a face-to-face program, because an online program is really not going to be, you got to be very organized. You got to be able to push yourself through to completion. So if you say, I'm not a completer finisher, then you should probably not think of an online program, even if you invest your savings in, or your company's investing your savings in advance. You might feel you need more the face-to-face modules to keep you on track. So are we looking for different people? We're always looking for people. So the first thing is expectations. The second thing is, regardless of which program you're applying to, we want to know, will fellow students understand why you're on the program? So will they be able to say, I'm going to learn from this person, because so much of our activity is based in a team environment. So we need to get an idea about the person's experience, and we need to get an idea about the person's willingness to share that experience and a little bit their personality. And the third thing, regardless of which program you're doing, that we look for is, if you start the program from an academic perspective, are you likely to succeed?
Fantastic. All right, thanks very much. Okay, so keep your questions coming, everyone, so that I don't have to ask Nick any more questions that he doesn't like. Perhaps this is maybe a good moment, Nick, to address the sort of whilst we're talking about students who are looking for different things, obviously one of the real advantages of a full-time program is that you get a very, very strong connection with your fellow classmates. Do you think with the part-time MBA and with the online MBA that there is still going to be that sort of strong personal connection between students?
I think it's obviously going to be different. I mean, we've been running our executive MBA program for a very long time, and our part-time MBA program for a couple of years now. And it is amazing how much bonding goes on between those groups. In the online program, it's difficult for us to say at the moment to what extent that personal bonding will be replicated. I would certainly recommend that people take advantage of the in-person options that are there just to actually meet. We've done a lot of research among online programs. We've also developed some collaboration tools online that go above and beyond the course network, and this is basically based around going to sort of social learning and going beyond the sort of typical forums. And there we hope to develop as much personal connectedness as possible. It remains to be seen what those trade-offs are. Obviously, if you're going to be spending a year sitting beside somebody, you're going to get to know them a little bit better than if you're going to be meeting them online. So I think that's a trade-off people are going to have to make.
Makes sense. Now, I suppose one of the main reasons that people come to a business school, probably the main reason for a lot of people, is to further their career as well. So perhaps could you tell us a little bit more about the career offerings available for each of the programs? Now, I suppose obviously for the full-time MBA, because it is a hard break, everybody's unemployed when they finish the program. Careers are presumably very heavily involved, but are careers involved as much for the part-time as for the online?
Yeah, and after that, maybe you could ask the audience whether they might all be interested in one particular program. We didn't have a poll, but I think it might be a bit difficult for people just keep jumping from one program to the other if they're all interested in one particular one. So yeah, career services are available for all our programs. Obviously, for the executive MBA, the part-time MBA, and the full-time MBA, career services are an integral part of the program experience. You experience the career services workshops in your face-to-face modules. In the EMBA, you have a specific leadership development program, which is also linked to the career services. Full-time MBA, you have very regular workshops, you have career fairs. Part-time MBA, when you're on campus, you also have career fairs. The online MBA, you have a suite of online resources for your career. And then what we've done with the online MBA is we've unbundled our career service to a certain extent. So if you wish to book personal career coaching, you can buy a number of sessions. There is a reason why the price is cheaper than the part-time MBA program. It's certain services such as the international modules and the personal coaching and the career services side. There are add-ons to the program that you can book if you need them.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, maybe following up on that, if everyone would like to type into the Q&A which program it is that they're interested in, we can maybe get a bit of a better sense for how we can sort of tailor our answers. Feel free to type them into the Q&A where you've been asking your questions today. We have one question here from Anna Maria. This is, I suppose, a bit specific to her profile, but this is maybe a good opportunity to discuss it. So Anna Maria has 8 years of e-commerce experience in fashion in Germany and would like to gain more knowledge about innovation management and how to build an efficient digital organization. So does the part-time MBA sound like a good fit for her?
Yes, for sure. A couple of reasons. Number one, she's got an innovation focus, and the program has a strong focus on innovation. Secondly, she's based in Germany, so attending the modules face-to-face should be very doable. I would say the discussion we would have with Anna Maria, was it?
Anna Maria.
Anna Maria would be, okay, where is my leadership experience, and am I looking really for the innovation content, or am I already at the stage where I'm managing significant teams and I'm looking to really look at my leadership behaviors? If that answer is no, actually more focused on the innovation, then I would say the part-time MBA program is the right one there. It certainly sounds like, I mean, you basically said, okay, you said all my things that make me think, okay, the part-time program, and she didn't indicate that she wishes to leave her job. Yeah, and in terms of the experience profile, so the average professional experience on our executive MBA is about 15 years. The average experience on our part-time MBA program so far is around 8 years, 8 to 9 years. Full-time MBA program, it's about 7 years. And the online MBA, who knows? Although I expect it will be close to the part-time MBA experience. I think there'll be quite a range, but we just don't know yet. But I guess our online MBA program will be, it might even be a tick older, because I think the flexibility might appeal to people with slightly more experience.
That makes sense. Well, we've had a few people who indicated they're interested in the online MBA, just in our sort of snap poll there. So perhaps we can come back to that in a moment, because Marit asks, due to the COVID situation, what's the class format right now for the full-time MBA? Is it virtual? Is it physical? Is it hybrid? And I suppose, how do you see the next kind of 12 months playing out with regard to sort of teaching?
Yeah, welcome to my life. Corona Task Force every Wednesday since the 20th of February 2020. So you're asking the right person. At the moment, the full-time MBA is returning to hybrid teaching on April the 26th. So we have been in fully online mode since December. So since the height of the last wave in Germany, and now we have, I mean, for those of you who are not in Germany, the one thing that's really changed here is testing. So there are testing availability has just, it's multiplied exponentially in the past 4 weeks in Germany. You can get tested everywhere. We have a test center on campus now. So students will test before they come to campus. We've just rolled that out. We're just in the final sort of repeat testing phase of that, the testing of the testing. So we're going back to hybrid on the 26th of April. In our part-time MBA program in Munich, we are also doing the same, except the Bavarian government has a standard rule that for the program types that we run, if the incidence rate goes above 100 on a 7-day basis in Munich, then we will have to go back to online, in which case participants can come to Berlin. So we're managing the situation. Full-time MBA will, so the group that started now, so they will be moving to hybrid, start in January, they will move into hybrid on the 26th of April. And we expect that to continue. Our philosophy is, we're really trying to work with, number one, the safety of the students, but also trying to give people the experience that they wanted. So it's kind of a fine line. We think we can get people back to campus safely. We have a maximum number of 25 people can be in any room at one time at the moment under state law. Yeah, hopefully it'll work.
Touch wood, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we've got time for just a couple more questions. So if anyone does have a final question, feel free to chuck it in. But maybe just now we can kind of focus a little bit more on the online MBA, because a few people indicated their interest in that as well. I mean, you were pretty heavily involved in the development of the online MBA, especially with your role with EdTech as well. Maybe you could sort of talk us through the thought process behind sort of deciding to set up an online program.
Well, I think I'll talk to you about the philosophy of the online MBA and the online education, and why we chose the platform that we chose, and why we do what we do. So for so long, online education has been, merely taking face-to-face and throwing it onto the internet in a lecture capture mode, and that's just terrible. It's a terrible way to learn. So around 2017, we were really seeing increasing demand for blended education, particularly from executives, from executive education. So we decided to look for a platform that would help us to structure an online experience rather than simply to transfer things into an online mode of delivery. We looked at the standard learning management systems that were on the market, Everybody talks about this one Canvas. It's a learning management system which is designed for face-to-face education, and they were trying to sell that as appropriate for online. We didn't like it, so we looked at what other schools were using. We found one in use by Imperial College in London, and we said, that's got a really nice user experience. It's got a very nice pedagogical philosophy. It's basically the platform allows you to treat the whole online learning journey as a sequence of curated experiences, which creates enough variety and engagement for the student to actually be able to enjoy the experience and to participate. So we actually bought a share in this platform, which subsequently got sold. We made quite a bit of money out of it, but there are 10 schools now using this platform around the globe, and we're all working together to improve the platform. But if you imagine you have a learning journey, you have a course that you're trying to do, and you're constantly being challenged to engage with the platform rather than be a passive learner. Our whole learning approach to online is active learning, and the idea is that we give enough variety in terms of assignment and as little exam as possible. So we're not an exam focused school. We focus on assignments, we focus on critical evaluation, we don't focus on memory. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey for us, and the acceptance of online, the acceptance of good online learning has meant that we've managed to save a huge amount of our executive education business despite the pandemic, because we've converted it into online with what we've been learning. And I think we're probably at the forefront in Europe of that. I mean, there's a few schools that have been doing it for a while. You've got IE, you've got Imperial, you've got Warwick, but I think we've definitely caught up with those schools in the past couple of years, and if not overtaken them. I mean, particularly, I think one of the interesting things, maybe some of the participants who are still interested in online or still on online themselves, if they haven't all dropped off, got bored listening to me, is I think that the whole pricing mentality for online education has changed a little bit. I mean, everybody was trying to defend the absolute premium prices, and if you look at the price that ESMT's put on our online MBA, it's €1,000 a month, roughly, and it's a premium MBA program. It's a top 10 in Europe business school. We're using the same platform as two of our biggest competitors, that's Imperial and IE in Madrid, and we're charging 50% of the price, and our faculty are better. So I think that we're going to see prices come down for online education in the next while, and I think we're just trying to disrupt the market a little bit with that program as well.
Fantastic. I was just going to ask about price, so you've ticked that off. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, thanks very much for kind of sharing the idea. We've kind of hit our 45 minutes total. We have one final question here from Anna Maria, which I think I can probably handle, just about admissions and the application process and stuff. So we work on a rolling admissions basis. So whenever you're ready to submit your application, you go ahead and do it. There's only a couple of internal deadlines for things like the early bird deadline, those kind of things, some scholarship deadlines. Once you have submitted, it's usually a pretty quick process. Within about a week, well, definitely within a week, someone would have been in touch with you to arrange the next step. So for each program, there's a slightly different thing. Some of them involve an interview, some of them involve uploading a video, those kind of things. But that's usually within a week. And once you have completed that next step, the decision comes back to you within about a week as well. So it's on a Friday, right, that the admissions committee sits and has their profiles presented to them. So hopefully from submitted to accepted should take no more than a few weeks. Just whilst we kind of wrap it up, I'm going to share my screen because you mentioned, Nick, earlier, the best thing that people can do is to get in touch if they have questions. So here is the contact details for our admissions team. So if anyone does have any further kind of follow-up questions, anything that they didn't get a chance to ask today, then you can get in touch with us directly here. It also comes straight through to our office. So if you have any follow-up questions for Nick as well, you can reach him here. I guess before we go, do you have any kind of final words, Nick? Anything else that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I would say, like, if you everybody's situation is going to be different. So if you have any specific questions, either reach out to the admissions team or just get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I've been doing this a while. I've been at the school since 2010. I was at INSEAD in France before, and I was at a big public university in Ireland for a few years. So even if you're sort of trying to compare different programs and you want to understand the relative positioning of schools, I'm happy to give you as unbiased a view as I can. We've no interest in having people here at the school unless they really want to be here. And I can see, thank you very much from Palma. I've got Justine, I've got a dirty secret. I've just come back to Berlin after 5 months in La Gomera in the Canary Islands, where I worked remotely as my little mini sabbatical. So I appreciate where you are. Yeah, so I'd say, look, just feel free to reach out with your own personal stories, because that's the only way you're really going to get clarity. And it's like the admissions team are completely open. It's sort of not, you're not going to get spammed forever if you contact us and say, what about my profile? We like to treat our applicants as adults, so just please reach out to us and have a conversation about what you're looking for.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks very much everyone for joining us today and for sticking it out through the whole session. And I guess thanks Nick for coming along and sharing your expertise. As we mentioned, if you do have any extra questions, please feel free to get in touch. We always tell people, don't be a stranger. And we will also be doing a number of other online events for the foreseeable future. I guess we'll be hosting these kind of things every couple of weeks. The next one we have coming up is a masterclass with one of our faculty members as well, so keep a lookout for that as well. Brilliant. All right, well, thanks again everyone. Have a nice day and goodbye.
Thanks, Lawrence.